Hi folks, so I just thought rather than constantly repeating bits about the assessment, the easiest way to do this for you would probably be just to stick it into a video, and what I'll just do just now is take you through the writing and the speaking assessments, which have obviously been kind of combined for you, just to make sure everyone's got a nice clear understanding of exactly what we're looking for and exactly what work you should be getting on with. So your course has it's actually got three assessments. There's a reading assessment as well that we're going to deal with separately. But the mandatory written and spoken assessments can actually, as we've done here, be combined into one task. And so what we've tried to do as per the course is mimic a real world business task. So what I've set for you is one where you've to, research, write and present this business report on websites that you've analysed as if you've been hired as a freelancer, basically. So that's the kind of rough outline you can see there. It's got to be at least 1,500 words, okay? Do not hand me in something that's too short, because I'll just hand it back to you. You need to act as though you've been hired by a new startup company. And we said before, it doesn't really matter what the subject area is. So if you wanted to analyse, news websites, then make up a startup company called, Glasgow Clyde News. If you want to analyse like travel agents' websites, make up a new travel agent called Glasgow Clyde Travel, or whatever you want to call it. I don't really much care. But it'll make a big difference if you sort of approach the task in the way it's intended. Because as you'll see in a second, a lot of the material you've got to hand in at the end of it kind of pulls together these different strands, so it makes sense to work in that with that sort of mentality. So you're going to be analysing the websites of 3 competitors to provide advice and recommendations for this new company, for their owners or execs, however you want to look at it, because they want to launch their own website, and you're going to try and give them advice on what are the key features, what are the things to avoid, what are the things they have to make sure they do. You're then going to take that written assessment, and that's going to be the thing that you present. So it'll need to be done to an audience, and I'll probably put you into small groups for this. So you'll be maybe in a group of 3 or 4 people. The audience, maybe 4 or 5, so you've got an audience of 3 or 4. And they're going to sort of basically pretend to be the owners of this startup company. So you're going to give a presentation to them. You will have to have provided them with your report a week in advance, okay? Because you need to make sure they're asking you good kind of detailed questions, which I'll explain. So they're going to pretend they're the startup owners. You're going to give your presentation to them as if they've hired you, and you're saying to them, this is the advice I would give you in terms of what you should do with your new website based on analysing 3 of your competitors. You then have to answer questions that have come from them as well. And you need to make sure that you are answering the questions properly. Okay, one of the things that causes people to fail these assessments is they just don't take that bit seriously. Partly, I think, because maybe in previous courses or in school, they've gotten away with, someone who's saying, why did you choose this topic? And they just go, oh, I thought it was interesting. And everyone pretends that's good enough, right? Isn't going to happen. You need to treat this, as do the people in the audience, as a task that has got a business focus. So they're going to ask you some hopefully, challenging enough questions, asking you to elaborate on a point you've made, or maybe something as simple as on page 4 you say X, Y, and Z. Could you sort of expand on that a bit for us? Could you clarify something? Could you go back to this slide that you used? And you need to be able to deal with that in the way that you would do in this kind of scenario. And then after that, you're going to provide a final submission, which will be the actual final assessment submission, basically. So what that'll look like, you'll have to submit your final written report. I'll need a copy or a recording of your presentation, including the question and answer session. That can be done online. It's actually quite easy to do it through things like Teams and Zoom. All of my communication students last year did that, so that should be fine. I'll need a copy of any presentation aids, like PowerPoints or Prezis or whatever you happen to have used. And I'm also going to need you to have written up a summary of the presentation, specifically of the question and answer section. So I'll provide a bit of a template for that for you. But long story short, you need to be able to summarize, these are the questions that I was asked. These are sort of summaries of the responses that I gave, and then any other information you're referring to or anything you think they should go and read, sort of to follow on from your point, you'd put that in as well. And then, this is, everything that would be handed over, I suppose, maybe with the exception of the recordings. This is everything that would be handed over in this scenario, where you'd be saying to them, I wrote your report, I did your presentation for you, I came in and did it, you had some questions during the presentation, absolutely fine. Here were the responses, and here's any follow-up that I've had to go and research for you. Hope you're happy with it. Bang, you hand it over, you get paid. In this case, you hand it over and you pass 2 or 3 of the assessments for the course. So if there's any questions or any problems, obviously get in touch, but hopefully this should give a nice kind of clear sense of exactly what we're doing over the first part of your communication unit. And as I say, we'll get into the reading assessment after we've got all this dealt with. It shouldn't take too long and it's a bit more straightforward. Cheers.